Welcome back, everybody. Youngzers, episode 7. Got some hearts in the chat from Dan. Thanks for that. The boys are back. We got Roberts, Dan, Andrew. What's going on, guys? What's new this week?
Two of the local teams 1-0 to start the year. So sorry for West Virginia taking country roads back home. That song's about Virginia. I'm not even a Pitt fan, at heart. But anytime I can see Pitt win the backyard brawl, A-okay with me.
Mm-hmm. So we'll be going in on the backyard brawl here soon. We had resident guest Roberts was there, so I'm sure he'll have some stories to tell. Maybe some gripes with what went down at the stadium, maybe. So we'll get his side of the story. I'm sure he wasn't acting like a jag or anything. So I guess we'll see. So let's kick it off like we usually do with the Steelers here. No activity this week playing wise. Last preseason game was last week. We already talked about that. But next week they have week 1 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Personally, I'm not feeling too good about this game. Next week, Sunday at 1 o'clock. What about you guys?
Taking the Cincinnati money line, if not the spread for next week. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
6.5. I think could be more, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think 6.5's enough points. And they normally don't do double digits in the NFL. You won't see a lot of double digit spreads, but this is one that should be. Ryan, you're vibrating there, bud.
Me? Yeah, that's my phone. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. So I just don't like our chances, especially with the revamped offensive line of Cincinnati. They went out and actually fixed their offensive line to keep Burrow off the dirt. It's just going to be a long game for the Pittsburgh Steelers this coming Sunday.
Yeah, I think they only have one offensive lineman returning, Jonah Williams at left tackle, I believe. They brought in Collins from Dallas, Ted Karras at center. So their offensive line's revamped, which not only will help Joe Burrow, like Dan said, stay out of the dirt, but I think that's going to elevate Joe Mixon to another level and what he's capable of. So in terms of what the Steelers have to, Cincinnati's defense, Trey Hendrickson, great defensive end. He really played well for them last year in his first year coming over from New Orleans. The Steelers' offensive line just isn't it, and I think that's going to end up being the deciding factor in that first game. Even if you give them time to gel, I just don't think the offensive line is going to have enough in it, and the Steelers' offense isn't going to be able to do enough to keep up with the Bengals.
I think it's going to be the opposite problem. I think the defense just get picked apart. Joe Burrow has so many weapons. I don't really trust our secondary. I think that's where it's going to go downhill. I think we'll be able to stop the run game, maybe hold Joe Mixon off, but I think it's to be more Joe Burrow just having his way with the secondary.
I mean, if Tyler Boyd's your third best receiver, you're doing something right. So I don't know about you guys, but I think Cincinnati from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 3 has the best in the league with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd.
I know the Steelers haven't proved it yet with our receiving core, but I would say, you're probably right. Steelers could make some noise there. We'll see how Pickens plays and if Claypool can have a bounce back year and if Deontay's out there getting his catches. I think realistically we got to see if we could stop the run. We weren't able to last year. You would think with Alu coming back, you went and got Ogunjobi. And like we've said in the past couple pods that they got them guys that are going to give our defensive line a blow. See if we keep our defensive line fresh. So I think Mixon might have a big game. I don't even think Joe Burrow is going to hurt us that much. But there are some question marks on the defensive side. So it'll all play out. And I just don't see it in the Steelers' favor. But did we really think that they were going to go to Buffalo last year and blow the doors off of Buffalo like they did? I wouldn't say they blew the doors off them, but they won that week 1 matchup and nobody gave them a chance.
That's what I was about to say too.
Yeah. So is Cincinnati going to be coming in on such a high because they made it to the Super Bowl? Are they going to regress at all? Because it's tough in the salary cap era to keep making noise and go back to a Super Bowl and be a contender with the salary cap. It doesn't happen very often, and if they do, it normally doesn't turn out well for that returning team.
Yeah, I think that I just don't see the Steelers winning this game. No. But I mean, public perception is a big thing too. So, I mean, could be a chance. Any man with two hands is a fighting chance. So, like you said, they walked into Buffalo last year.
Yeah.
And Buffalo's a Super Bowl contender. And last year, the Steelers definitely weren't. So, I mean, it could happen. Roberts, what do you think?
I just don't think Dan Moore even can stand a chance against Hendrickson. He's going to abuse him all day. I think Trubisky's going to be running for his life. I mean, I've been looking at it recently. 6.5. I might just go up to 10. I don't think the game's close.
That's what I thought too. Like touchdown on a field goal. Honestly,
I just don't. I don't think Najee gets started. I don't think Trubisky even throws for over 200. I think they're going to start 0-1, and it's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the spread. What about the over/under set at like 44.5?
Yeah.
Are you taking the over or the under there?
I'd take the over. You know what I mean?
I think
since he could put up, since he could put it up themselves.
Put up 30. I could see
them
him putting up 30, and then the Steelers. I don't even know if they'd score 2 touchdowns. I'd say a touchdown and a field goal, maybe.
I can see Cincy putting up 35 easy. You know what I mean? But it's all perception, like you said. That's why they go and play the game. It's any given Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So. I mean, just a matter of principle too. I refuse to bet the under. So I want to see, if I'm throwing that down, I want to see some fireworks. That's what I'm rooting for. I'll refuse to bet the under unless it's like an Army-Navy game or something like that where it could end 10-7, or if it's Iowa apparently this week, 7-3, a field goal and a couple safeties. Big Ten football, it's back.
Or weather too. You get one of those snow games, or what was it last year, Buffalo, New England, whenever it was like windy snow and they just ran the ball the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was that Steeler game years and years ago. They played Miami. It was like a monsoon.
Yeah, the Mud Bowl.
Yeah.
The Mud
so,
Bowl.
I mean, anything could happen, but it's not going to – I don't see the forecast, affecting the game too much.
No.
We're still in September, beginning of September. They're right over there in Ohio. They get pretty much the same weather we do. I don't see the weather being a factor. So, yeah, it's going to be – The only weather it's going to be is Joe Burrow raining bombs on that secondary, and we'll see what they're made of. And same with that defensive line. If Joe Mixon starts carving them up,
I mean, if they get to Burrow early, maybe that'll shake things up a bit. But do you see that happening?
No.
I mean, go ahead, Mons.
The problem is they're not going to get to Burrow. This offensive line. It's all on paper, but it's way better than what they've had the past couple of years for Burrow. And if you look at the Steelers secondary, they don't have a true cornerback one. You have Cam Sutton, Levi Wallace, Akella Witherspoon, which those are the kind of guys you would want to guard. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. That's a pretty fair matchup. But Jamar Chase is in Cincinnati, so that drop off, I'm not looking forward to that at all. I don't think that the Steelers secondary, as good as Minka is, as solid as they are, when you have you're facing a roster that has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd as your top 3 right there, you're in for some trouble. Yeah. Darrelle Revis is not walking through that door. You don't have anybody locked down like that. No Stephon Gilmore's, nothing like that. So. I wanted to give the Revis shout out. A lot of Pitt fans here. Half the screen's blue and gold right now. So I wanted to give that out. But no, I just don't think they don't match up well on paper, I think, against Cincinnati is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think even just going off the preseason games, what we saw, especially in the Jacksonville game, what Lawrence was able to do. And I think Burrow's better than Lawrence. He has more weapons too, especially during a season game too, regular season. I think we're going to kind of see a reflection of that. That was it the second preseason game?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was a little bit of foreshadowing of what's to come next Sunday. But that's all I got on the Steelers. I'm not too hopeful for next week. I'm going in. I don't know.
I might contradict myself here, but it's an AFC North matchup, and anything could happen. You know what I mean? Unless you're the Browns. I mean, for the past 20 years. I mean. Even look at them teams like when Baltimore would be out of the playoffs and they'd come and they'd play Pittsburgh tight, or Cincinnati would give Pittsburgh a run. So anything can happen. It's an AFC North matchup, and it's going to be nasty, but I just don't see it going Steelers' way.
No.
I just think the whole rivalry thing, it's about to be renewed because all these rosters are kind of flipped too. Like Big Ben's gone. So like those guys of the rivalry before, I think it's like gonna renew since be a couple years until we get those heated battles again though, because both teams are pretty young.
Yeah.
Even if you go over to the Ravens and even the Browns, all those teams are young too.
Yeah.
Like those big names that we're used to, like Pac-Man Jones, like guys like that, Joe Flacco, you know, Perfect. Like those guys aren't
Perfect.
anymore. AB is not in the rivalry.
No.
Like all the guys we look for in the rivalry, like there's just not those matchups that you really see anymore where you got to see like a good scrap, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest rivalry in the AFC North now is probably Deshaun Watson versus massage parlors. That's probably the number one in the AFC North right now.
You're not wrong.
It was
Get all up in
versus paper towel holders for a long time.
It was.
Yeah.
Frosted tips.
Or offensive coordinators in Tequila Cowboy. That's another one too. But that's all I got on Steelers. What about you guys? Anything else?
Sit and wait.
Before we move on to the big topic, it's what everyone's been waiting for. Backyard brawl, baby. Roberts, take it away. What was going on down there? What was the energy? What time did you get there?
We get there about 11:30, 12 o'clock. It was pretty dead so far. There was a stupid rule. 2 o'clock was opening for the tailgates and everything. So we're walking around. Perception is all week 75-25. It came out that it was going to be 75-25 West Virginia fans down there. It's now looking back at it, I don't know who put that stat out, but they probably went to West Virginia because they can't add. But it was good. It was a great game. It was a rivalry game. It was everything that's been hyped up here for the last 6-7 months when it got announced. So, but
honestly, I think it's the game of the weekend. There's a lot of football this weekend. That was definitely the game of the weekend.
There's a lot of good football this weekend too. Honestly.
Yeah.
There was, but like the backyard brawl lived up to, MJ Devonshire, the Whippeal kid, pick six to win the game. That puts you in backyard brawl lore right there.
Yes.
And when you look at, there was a lot of good football, but it wasn't the games that like we thought would be good. Like I think Ohio State Notre Dame was a letdown of a game.
That was
that was not good. Oregon,
Georgia,
I don't think woke up for that game against Georgia, 49-3. Bo Nix, he's the SEC now, Pac whatever, 10, 12, 15. He's the Sean Clifford. He's the Sean Clifford. I'll get to that later. But the backyard brawl lived up to the hype. That was easily the best game of the weekend. Easily.
So it's easy for it to live up to the hype whenever it hasn't happened in 11 years. That was the last backyard brawl 11 years ago. I was a senior in high school when that happened, 2011. So, I mean, I was pumped to see it back. Let's see what happens next year. I'm glad it's back. It should be played every year. Yep. I mean, the universities are 78 miles apart. Hence, it's in your backyard. I'm pumped that it's back, and I think it's good for college football. Even you hear all these realignment talks and different conferences, and well, if this team goes here and this team, it should be written that Pitt plays West Virginia every year. Excuse me. I think it should be played later in the year. Maybe when there's a little more stakes involved. But to open this year, it was phenomenal. It was absolutely electric. It was everything everybody wanted. I had to listen to it, but Billy Hillgrove, I was getting goosebumps just hearing Billy Hillgrove just yelling, ranting, and raving, especially on that pick six. And he might have been a little tuned up. He was going off.
Something was in his coffee cup.
Yeah, he was a little sideways and beside himself by a few of those calls by the officials.
No,
good.
I say I'm a firm believer that like Pitt, West Virginia should play every year. I think Penn State, Pitt, West Virginia should play each other every year. That would be awesome. Getting those local rivalries back would be phenomenal.
Like I could get behind that, but it almost seems like Penn State doesn't ever want to play Pitt, but West Virginia always wants to play Pitt, and Pitt always wants to play West Virginia. Pitt wants to play Penn State every year. I'll tell you that. You talk to any Pitt fan, they'd love to play Penn State. It's almost because they feel like they're forgotten in the shadow of Penn State. We're in the same state, we're only a few. How far is it?
couple hours away. Yeah.
You know,
Well,
it's not. It's you're still in close proximity, but it almost feels like Penn State thinks they're better than Pitt. Even on paper, we don't have to play you on the field. We don't want to play you. West Virginia, it don't matter if, they're number 2 in the nation or if they're 200th in the nation. They want to play Pitt because it's always nasty. It's kind of like an AFC North matchup. You know what I mean? You know that you're going to get their best and they're going to get up for that game.
Yeah. Just like as a Penn State fan, that sucks because I would love for them to play Pitt every year. That's something that should be happening regardless.
Agreed.
And the fact that like most Penn State fans have that attitude where, they think they're above like Pitt, West Virginia. Like, look at your record from the past few years. You're not above anybody. Literally, you're not. Yeah. You're a middle of the pack team. Yeah. And I'll be the first one to say that. I'm not the one. I'm not going to come in here and say, they're a college for they're a top 10 lock every year. They're not. I think James Franklin is a phenomenal recruiter. He still has to prove himself. I mean, he has, he had the one Big Ten championship against Wisconsin, but he hasn't consistently competed with Ohio State.
Yeah.
He had a good streak against Michigan, but if you want to be the pinnacle of the Big Ten, you have to beat Ohio State, which they've done, I think, one time under his tenure. And that was off the block field goal. Marcus Allen blocked the field goal.
Yeah.
Grant Haley returned that. I don't think they're above that at all. And, that kind of attitude just sucks. I would love for them to play Pitt every year. That's a rivalry that needs to be brought back because that was a rivalry before we were even alive. That was, and then, us growing up at our age, we never really got to see that Pitt-Penn State rivalry up until, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
They need to bring that back. Yeah, we never got to experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a fan of Penn State, I'd love to see them play Pitt every single year. And, the fact that I've only got to see it 4 times, I think it's kind of a scam. Especially whenever we'd want to see a game, we'd have to go 3 hours to go watch a game. They come to Pittsburgh, we're driving half an hour, and we're going to see a Penn State game. And, I can see what their mentality is. It is a stupid mentality that they're thinking they're punching down by playing Pitt and that they have more to lose than to gain from that. But I think it's good for both sides. It's good for both fan bases, especially from a Penn State fan that would live in this area. You'd want to see that happen. They just brought back a series with Syracuse. In years. What does that get you? We're going to play Villanova this year non-conference. That's just dumb. And the Syracuse one was every team puts cupcake schools like Rhode Island. Pitt is Rhode Island this year. Penn State's Villanova. But Syracuse, when you sign up to do a series with that, makes 0 sense when you could be playing Pitt. That is just ducking Pitt and not wanting to play them because you may lose and you may look bad and it'll hurt recruiting. You could lose to Syracuse too. If you could lose any game you play.
Yeah.
It's
Syracuse
not
like
any game's guaranteed. Yeah, I don't, that was what irritated me. I don't care about Syracuse. As a Penn State fan, they're not even on the top 50 of teams I'd want to start a rivalry with or play every, 3-4 years. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't want to see them.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I don't want to see them play Ohio U. I don't care about that. Put in Pitt or something,
So,
give all these spots.
2 points to that. I think it would help have that rivalry on your schedule because whenever college football is looking at it what's your strength of schedule? Because a lot of it comes down to strength of schedule. But I think that they don't want to because they want to save themselves for Ohio State, for Michigan State. But then you don't come up and get it. You don't win those games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then
that's exactly it.
I also think if you bring that rivalry back, you got 2 Pitt guys here. You got 2 Penn State guys here. You have a little bit of friendly competition between, you got bragging rights too. Because at the end of the year, if I just say, Pitt's ranked higher, and then you could just say, they didn't play, so Penn State's the better team. We played in a harder conference or whatever. But I think Pitt is relevant enough now in winning an ACC championship, playing in the ACC championship for the second time under Pat Narduzzi, getting the bigger bowl games, that Penn State should look to put them on the schedule because it's a quality game for the fact of if you win that game, your strength of schedule is great. Even if you lose that game and Pitt finishes pretty well, you're still looking good for your strength of schedule.
Especially with what the news that came out yesterday, was it the day before, about them expanding the college football playoff to 12 teams. That would even look better. It's not going to hurt you. It's more reward than risk, I feel, whenever it goes to 12 teams. That's one way I look at it.
I think it's working towards that, though, where they're going to have to, put them on the schedule more consistently. But I don't know. Do you think that teams want a game like that just once a year? I don't know. Because it looks like they're just focused on, like, the Pitt West Virginia thing right now. And do you think once that, like, say 3 years from now, that's done, do you think they'll add Penn State again? And then when that's done, they'll switch back to West Virginia? Or, like what do you think about that?
The schedules are already made up to like 2030.
Yes.
So even if you wait 3 years, it'll still be like 10 years till you play Penn State again. That's the dumb part. They're not going to have that opportunity unless they shuffle schedules around or they drop somebody or something like that. It's not going to come back for a while. That's the crappy part of it.
And I think that's why I don't really mind Pitt either, is because, like, if I was a Penn State fan and I watch them play Pitt every year, I'd hate Pitt. But I really don't have a hate for Pitt that the older guys that I always hear talk about it, like, hate it. Like, when they first played, it was, like, kind of surreal, like, whenever there's, like, a video game crossover or something, like in a movie, like, it just didn't even feel real that they were playing it. It's just such a consistent thing in the past, apparently. But I don't know. I'd really like to hate Pitt more, I guess. So, like, maybe they should play it. But, like, I can't, like, hate them, There's no reason to. They never play. It's just that's what's the older Youngzers just, like, yelling at a cloud at each other. Like, we don't really yell at each other about it. So, like, there's no argument. Like, what do we have to argue about?
Yeah. And go ahead, Ryan.
I mean, I think, going back to that, it came out on ACC Media Day, too. It's added 4 more years now, so it's 2030 is the last year that the backyard brawl will be played, which is good in the same sense of matter of, but you need now stronger schedules to make the 12 team, because now, like, it came out, you get six the Power 5 conferences gets 1 automatic bid and then 6 bids given to people. So
at large,
you look at a team like Cincinnati last year. Who did they play last year? Until week 12. Yeah. You know what I mean? You got it. It's sad to see, because you also lose a ton of money as college football, like as programs playing Rhode Island. You lose playing Villanova. You lose a ton of money. And would I like to see it? I mean, you're coming from me. You know me. You guys can stand Pitt. I can't stand Penn State. I just we'll keep it PG. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it sucks. It sucks.
You did attend. You were in Beaver Stadium last year, though.
And I did not cheer once.
Let's not gloss over the fact you were at a Penn State game last year.
I think it's easier for Penn State fans or Pitt fans to hate Penn State than it is for Penn State fans to hate Pitt. Because if I was a Pitt fan in Robert's shoes, like they said, Penn State fans, they always think they're better than, everybody else. So, like, that's just a stereotype. I'm not saying that I think, like, I don't think one's better than the other, depending on the season, I guess. But I could see coming from, like, like the mentality of thinking they're better, that it's easier for a Pitt fan to hate Penn State. But
I'm going to back up Ryan here, because I'm the same way. I despise Penn State. And it's really, really simple if you ask me why. I always felt like they ducked Pitt for years. I know Pitt played in the Big East, and, they weren't all that in the Big East. They're always losing to Cincinnati and stuff like that. But when they went to the ACC, I thought maybe this is a chance for them to play Penn State, because I never got to see it. And I always felt like they were getting ducked. And I always felt like that Penn State always thought they were better than Pitt, no matter what. Like, you don't want to go prove it on the field. I always felt like they were ducking them. I can't stand Penn State. And that's the only reason why. Now, I can respect that you sit here and you say that you don't hate Pitt. I understand that. That's fine. You really don't have a reason. You weren't the ones being ducked. You know what I mean? We were the ones being ducked, I felt like.
Yeah.
But that's just me being a Pitt fan, a huge Pitt fan, have been for forever. And I was happy when that game came back, because Will Salem, ginormous Penn State fan, right? The first year they played it, we had a little bet. Pitt ended up beating Penn State. And then he had to take the punishment. I got a whole pick get up for him. I took a picture of him. He had to have it on his social media. But I feel like that kind of hurt in the rivalry because Penn State, I always felt like if they would have lost what'd they play 3 or 4 times? I think it was three. So if Penn State beats Pitt all 3 times, I think they renew that rivalry and get it on the schedule later down the road. But since Pitt did beat them that one time, I just feel like that hurts it. But back to your point, Andrew, that the schedules are all made up for like 2030. I was looking at them. There's spots on both schedules and even West Virginia. All 3 of them could play. There's enough openings that you could get all 3 but Penn State doesn't want it. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
I mean, something I think that all 4 of us can agree on is that we just hate Ohio State either way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we can all agree on that.
If I had to hear OH one more freaking time last night,
I'd rather
I was going to pull that bucket
hat
hat over his head.
Yeah, I got some notes here from the game. I think a lot of people didn't like Keaton Slovis's performance. I think he's going to perform way better next week. Come Tennessee, I think he needed to feel what this area was about and what these fans could bring and what an atmosphere like this was. And offensive line didn't help him out that much, which is crazy because coming from a 5th year, mostly 6-year seniors, which is crazy because going into the season, I had that as my number 2 position as a top 10. So I think next week we'll say a lot of what this team's about, and already opening up as a 4-point underdog at home to a team you beat last year, which nobody gave you any credit for, is crazy to me. But there's also a couple injuries as well that if you guys look down, and I saw Rodney Hammond, who had a big game Thursday night, injured. They say he's good to go for next Saturday, but Narduzzi's always the type of guy to say, hey, wait a week, you'll get back out next week with the depth. But I didn't see the depth come out of that last game on Thursday night. Izzy, everybody talked. I was high on Izzy.
He looked bad.
Yeah.
Week 1, week 1 of the podcast, I said he might have a chance for Heisman. That might be the bad beat of the year. That's.
Was there any word on what happened to Deslin Alexandre? I know he looked like a wrist, but I didn't hear anything.
Yeah,
I didn't see anything after that.
He was in an air cast, I think, on the sidelines. But we said that the one day, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Air cast never good. That's not.
Hey, I can confirm an air cast is never good.
So, but the best thing about them is I think Pitt has a great young, hungry side of that, the defensive side with Dayan Hayes, with some younger guys that I think could step in and take his spot, which John Morgan, shout out to John Morgan. He talked all the smack all week. He's been talking it for 3 months. Finally came out, and the 2 people I went down to the game with, we both said the same thing. John Morgan looked like the only player that wanted to be out there for first 3 quarters. Which is crazy.
Ryan, I wanted to ask you, since you talked about the offensive line real quick.
Yeah.
Do you think that offensive line was kind of hidden away their weaknesses because of Kenny last year? Because that's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Kenny kind of made plays on his own and kind of, kind of hid how bad that offensive line was, because all you heard all week was Pitt's offensive line and Pitt's defensive line, they're going to control the line of scrimmage. So that's why I thought it was going to be a blowout. And then you come out and it was the exact opposite. West Virginia controlled both sides of the ball there at the line of scrimmage. So I just wanted to ask you if that's what you saw, because I know you said you didn't want Slovis to come out and be Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
He needs to be his own person, but does he kind of need to kind of be like Kenny and kind of hide that weakness of the offensive line if it is that weak?
Yeah, I will say the tackles didn't look good. Carter Warren, who your captain is, he got beat pretty bad. And the other guy, they had a rotation in the start of the second quarter, which I went back to the starter in the third. But Slovis isn't as mobile as Kenny, which people are trying to say the knock is, and which Nick Patty is, which Slovis got sacked there in the second quarter 3 times, and you thought the place was going to explode. Everybody wanted Nick Patty in there, which is crazy, but I think Slovis is mobile enough to get where he needs to be. Like you saw, he had a couple great runs, got out of the pocket, but Kenny was different. Kenny, for 4 years, was real tentative. You know what I mean? He took the sacks, and then he finally, year 5, took off. Do I see Slovis doing that? No, I see him finally airing the ball out, which another thing that people hated, Frank Signetti running the ball a ton on every first down. 17 straight first downs, it was a run play.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know. I think, like I said, I think next Saturday it's going to be completely different. I think what the thing that a lot of people don't realize is week 1's usually cupcakes. You come out vanilla, run the ball 75-80%, and hopefully you get a couple first downs. Here, it looked like every play was out of the bag for Pitt. You got everything out on the table. You got to see what worked. You got to see what didn't work, and hopefully this week Narduzzi steps up and coaches a great game on Saturday.
Yeah, there's no preseason in college football. No. It's not like the NFL where you get to see what works for 3 weeks, and so I could see that getting slow to start up. But what I saw from Slovis was he didn't really have good pocket presence. That's what I thought. He thought he had all the time in the world, and usually what was happening was the guys were just coming up behind him. And he just didn't move well out or see when the pocket was collapsing or anything.
Yeah, he took a lot of sacks, which is
300 yards though.
308, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
16 for 24.
Sorry, you guys know. So before we go to the Penn State game, there's one aspect of the backyard brawl that was brought up. A well-known Pittsburgh figure in West Virginia gear. Did anybody happen to see that? I know Ryan's chomping at the bit to go after this guy.
Pittsburgh
Ryan,
dad.
Take it away.
Pittsburgh dad.
Pittsburgh dad.
Yep.
In West Virginia gear.
I was unaware.
Keep in mind, he blocked me on Twitter years ago, and I was on a little rant here. He is the worst Pittsburgh figure there is. Just the lamest, most generic impressions that guy does. Cannot stand him. He blocked me for no reason. Just fueling the fire in me. So whenever I saw him in West Virginia gear, I was like, all right, it is time for the masses to turn on this guy. Let's get him out of here.
You can't be Pittsburgh dad with West Virginia gear.
You can't be.
Yeah, that loser can hold the L. Loser.
He can kick rocks.
You know what he is? A jag.
Yeah, that's a real jag.
He's a dirtball. That's what he is. You don't do that as a Pittsburgh area person.
Yeah.
Don West Virginia gear. You got to be. That's like an idiot of the week lock for that. Honestly, that might be.
Yeah. You be a West Virginia fan in Pittsburgh. I don't care. But whenever you claim you're the Pittsburgh dad, though.
Yeah. You're a figure like that. Yeah. Because I know back in high school, my offensive line coach, and he was our strength and conditioning coach too, Steve Pearson. He was a West Virginia guy, and I couldn't stand him. I loved Coach P, as a person, but when it was football time, college football, couldn't stand him because I can't stand West Virginia. I cannot. Go burn another couch.
I'm just glad our podcast member made it out of the belly of the beast in one piece.
I
almost didn't.
Give any comments?
I can't say that what I want to say, but Pittsburgh police gave me a warning. I mean, I know what I did. My whole section knows what I did. Hopefully next week's different. That's all I could say.
I thought you said they got the wrong guy. It wasn't.
That's what I heard.
They did. They got the wrong guy, but I can't speak on it. Back to blue. Good 12. We'll comment.
Okay.
All right. So Pitt squeaks out a win. was it 38-31, right? 38-31?
Yeah.
Questionable, no reversal of touchdown call. Or no, there was never a touchdown call, was it?
No, it was.
Was the end of the game?
The big controversy is how gutless the WVU coach is for not going on that 4th and like 2 inches.
Yeah.
Pitt hasn't been able to stop your running back. He's got 7 attempts for 125 yards.
Yeah, and
leading up to that.
You deserve to lose it.
Exactly. Gutless, spineless.
And a rivalry game nonetheless.
Exactly. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? You turn the ball over there and you got it. Slovis has to go 48 yards, 50 yards to score a touchdown. Oh, well, we wanted them to go. They punted it down to the 8. We wanted them to go 92 yards to score a touchdown. Well, he did, and
6 of 7 on that drive.
Yeah, 5 of 5.
Really?
Yeah, 5 of 5.
Loser call. You make a loser call like that.
It's mindless.
You accept the consequences.
Especially week 1. What's that say? You're not ready,
And in a rivalry game, you're just saying because his defense was, well, I trusted my defense. Okay, you don't trust your running back that hasn't been stopped. He was averaging, I think, 7.5 yards a carry to that point. I mean, come on now.
He's the Bob Nutting of West Virginia, a loser.
Yes.
And I'll say that. Neil Brown, loser.
Yes.
Loser call, loser mentality.
Yep.
Loser everything.
I
can take you home country roads. That's all.
But that's it. Go ahead, Penn State, guys.
Anything else on Pitt before we move on? No? All right, let's go. Penn State. Andrew, you called it. Trap game. It was looking out to shake out 35-31. Penn State actually won, which I was getting vocal. TV had some choice words from me, but
the Twitter fingers were pretty heavy Thursday night. I cannot stand Sean Clifford. I am dubbing this the anti-Sean Clifford podcast officially after watching him. I literally cannot. Then people were like, he accounted for 5 touchdowns in the game. Yeah, he accounted for 3 of Purdue's. The guy's a shitter. He's an absolute shitter. It's his 6th year, and they're still talking about him learning lessons on the field. What more can you learn? I mean, just the cherry on top was the end of the game. Mitchell Tinsley wide open. He airmails it by 50 feet, returned for a pick 6, and then the dude's puking in the end zone. He should be embarrassed. He should have cleaned that up in the end zone. I would have sent him out there. Throw some sawdust on there, clean it up, and then go back out.
Tinsley wouldn't have caught that ball if he had 2 of him on his shoulders and one was jumping.
He could look like the little rascal. He could look like the little rascals trying to get into a movie on the trench coat, one on top of the other. He still wouldn't have caught it. It was the worst throw I've ever seen in college football. I was flabbergasted watching this guy play. And then the fact that he leads a drive to win the game, that's just what chaps my ass right there, because everyone's like, oh, we got to keep starting him. Drew Lark came in, 5-star freshman, looked great in his first drive. He had a dime to Tyler Warren that was dropped that stopped the drive, but his ceiling is so much higher than Sean Clifford's. I don't care that his brother Liam's on the team. The fact that there's 2 of them on that team is just, I don't know. I don't like.
Yeah.
She makes Trace McSorley look like Johnny Unitas. That's what he does. McSorley was a good player. His arm was a little. He could run. His accuracy. Sean Clifford in his 6th year, I cannot emphasize it enough. And I honestly don't care. You, as James Franklin, should be putting the best quarterback with the highest ceiling that gives your team, a chance to win. If Sean Clifford was at Ohio State, he'd be mopping up the urinals. He wouldn't even be on the sidelines.
He wouldn't be on the scout team.
Yeah, big programs. I'll say it. Credible programs. Ohio State, Alabama, the top tier. They are never running a guy like that out on the field. No. That is what's going to separate Penn State from getting up top. A Muppet at quarterback. Rant over. I'm done with this guy. I was done with him. Yeah. I was done with him 4 years ago.
If you're a school like Penn State, you should never have a quarterback for 6 years, because that means you're not good enough to go to the next level. So, I understand he gets a COVID year or whatever, but this guy stinks, brother. Jeez. I can't stand him either.
Kenny Pickett was the exception, because that's that. How often does that happen? A guy being there 5-6 years, going first round, turning it around like Kenny Pickett did. That's a great story, but that's not something that happens every year.
No.
And if Sean Clifford thinks that's the route he's taking, the fan-controlled football league may even be a little too high for your standards.
Wow.
I'll go that far.
There's
He
no
may
way
be playing flag football.
he can sniff an NFL field. He will not sniff an NFL field. There's no chance.
No.
But I honestly think he's the worst Penn State quarterback of my lifetime. I can't think of any worse.
I mean, they had Anthony Morelli, which was way back when, but even he wasn't as bad. I mean, they've had average quarterbacks. Zach Mills was average.
Hackenberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's easily the worst.
McGloin,
I'd rather he makes Matt McGloin look like Peyton Manning.
Jesus.
I mean, I don't get it. I don't think
you were on
understand.
one.
I have been waiting since Thursday night. It has been stewing and just brewing. I'm rhyming now. I don't know what's going on. It feels like a fever dream, but I just need to, unleash this because it's been bubbling now.
Going from that, I was gonna say your boy looked good though.
Yeah.
Your favorite player on the team, JPJ.
He did. Yeah, they're targeting him the whole game. They're picking on him. Purdue's picking on him, but he had
Purdue got to learn. Yeah. You don't pick on Peasy. They learn pretty quick. He had 9 passes broken up in the game.
He had three pass deflections. Yeah.
The one at the key moment too, at the last drive, they were trying to. But
they didn't shoot Peasy in West Lafayette. That's what happened. They didn't. It wasn't Denver. Bad news for you, Boilermakers. It ain't Denver.
What about the wide receiver, the number 3? What's his name?
Parker Washington?
He
is quiet. I think he's a little quiet.
That Mitchell Tinsley, that transfer, he's going to be the guy.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
For 84 yards.
And here's another note I had. We said last week we're like the line is not going to look good. The line looked fine. The offensive line did not look bad at all. The running backs look good for the most part. Singleton, I think, seemed to be the best of the 3. I don't know. He looked the best to me. What do you see?
They need to ditch that committee. He was running, 5-star. I think he's the top running back that they've brought in. PA Player of the Year, looked phenomenal. And then they do this stupid rotation where they, you shouldn't. If you want to have a third down back, that's fine. Maybe sprinkle some guys in, but you get a guy running like that, get him in a rhythm, and just ride with him. There's no point in bringing, Katron Allen looked fine too. And don't get me wrong, it's not like they're bad running backs by any stretch of the imagination. But if you have one running back that's playing really well, ride him. Mix a guy in on third down. Maybe give, he needs a breather. Mix somebody else in, but don't do don't run him for the first couple series and then barely run him the rest of the game. That just doesn't make sense to me. I get what you're trying to do, but if you have that stud running back, which what Nick Singleton's looking like, just roll with him. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. That's why we were surprised, going back to Pitt, Rodney Hammond, Narduzzi's never been like that. You throw in Vincent Davis last year, you know what I mean? Vincent Davis didn't see the field on Thursday night. You saw Rodney Hammond, and you saw Rodney Hammond. That's the cowbell. If he's getting it done, throw him out there.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Every time Billy Hillgrove would talk about him, he was churning extra yards, was not going down on first contact, and then yet Izzy out there who was, you know what I mean, getting stacked up
in the backfield.
Yeah,
he wouldn't.
Yeah. So, but I see what you mean by that though, Motts, because I mean you can't get a guy warmed up. You need to take a couple hits. You need to feel that contact and feel the speed of the game, and then you do that. Like, let's say I get 2 series here. It says he got Singleton, right? Got 9 carries for 22 yards. You're giving me 9 touches. That's it. I'm just getting warmed up. Let me start busting them. You know what I mean? There's runners that get stronger as the game goes on.
Yeah, they have 4 running backs that are pretty good. You have the 2 freshmen, Singleton Allen, Kevon Lee, who had the touchdown to win the game off the pass from Clifford, Devin Ford, Noah Kane transferred to LSU, Keziah Holmes went to Florida State. So they had 6 running backs that were starting if not running back 2 quality. I get what you're trying to do and keeping everybody happy, but at the same time, you're there to win games. You're there to get a guy in a rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overthink it. You can't make everybody happy. And I'm not in the locker room. I don't know, who's happy, who's not. But it kind of seems like that when you're doing the rotation of 3-4 guys in the game that, how do you get somebody in a rhythm? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All in all, though, not a fun game to watch, really. I didn't enjoy it.
No.
just because they should have won that game, and they did, but they just looked horrible. But next week, Ohio U, right?
Yeah, the Bobcats are coming to
The
town.
point spread's 27.
Yeah, I will
So,
not.
I will not be touching that with a 10-foot pole, as Dan likes to say.
Yep.
And I don't think Penn State look bad. You know, they have a lot of turnover, like I was talking about, on defense. Some of the younger guys getting their feet wet, but I just think it's Sean Clifford stinks. It starts at the top, and he can be my scapegoat. You can come after me and defend him, and if you want to defend him, be my guest, but that's a fool's errand at this point, and I will tear you down, just like I tore down all the Carolina Panther fans that were in my mentions a couple weeks ago. Matt Corral goes down, Sam Darnold goes down, and I have some yokel from down in the boonies of North Carolina telling me, oh, Mason Rudolph couldn't back someone up on a peewee team. PJ Walker's better. I didn't even reply to him. There was no point in wasting any brain cells on that guy. You know, just I was going to nominate him for Idiot of the Week, but I'm like, yeah, you're in North Carolina. You clearly have no concept of football. I'll just let you go. That was my good deed of the week. I had to make myself feel good by not just picking that guy apart on social media. So, you know, I don't want to say anything but kudos to myself. He's welcome.
Good job.
So that's all on Penn State for the week. We'll recap next week's game on Sunday. Moving on, the local dumpster fire. Local dumpster fire, right?
So, Andrew, you want to start with this one or no? No comment on these guys?
This is where I'll be tuning out. So just someone ring a bell. I'm not wasting any breath on a team that is run by Bob Nutting, gets one win in the past week, and just overall, if you want to pitch for the Pirates, the slogan should be, if you have a pulse, you can pitch for the Pirates at this point. The only people that aren't eligible to pitch for the Pirates is if you're legally dead. That's the only people. I think they'll take anybody in the bullpen at this point. Put a mirror under their nose, it fogs up, throw them in the pen. They're that bad. They're that bad.
They're terrible. They're not good.
I'll be tuning out. bring me back
guys from Presby to play for him. Yeah. Right from a lifeline into the bullpen. Anyway. So, Pirates, here's the notes I have. Oof. That's one of my notes. Oof. That's how bad they're.
Yeah.
1-5 week again. Last week they were 1-5. I didn't have to change that note in my notes section, so that means they're 2-10 the past 2 weeks.
That's not good.
The only bright spot I'd say, Cruz looks like he's heating up. He looks like he's hitting better. I don't know. Most of their games are losing late, so after their starter comes in. So Jack Sawinski's back.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Great catch
today.
today.
Guys back. Great catch. Yep.
I'd be excited if it was July when he should have been up here.
Still up here.
Paid the guy a
3
little
months
bit of money,
late.
but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But this week they got the Mets and the Cardinals, so probably another 1-5 week if we're lucky. Maybe 0-6.
They won't win a game against the Mets.
Yeah.
They won't win one.
No. I mean, they just got swept by Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 4-0, 4-1, 4-3.
And Andrew's boy had a big day today. Van Meter.
Did Josh Van Meter actually hit a baseball today?
Yep.
I'll play the lottery. I'll play the lottery.
2-run double. So.
Hit the Powerball.
I will say
he should be serving McDoubles out of a drive-through.
Was it against Milwaukee? Mitch Keller went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 earned runs. Yeah, 10 Ks. They think he's molding into form. Him, and then you're going to have Rawanzi. You're still going to need – they think Mitch is going to be like a third starter, which is fine, but Rawanzi's going to be your ace. You still need three other decent arms.
JT, they keep them around. That's not bad.
It's going to take some time, and I like you said earlier, Ryan, that Cruz is heating up. It's just the same old though. You know, the guy hits a ball hard. That's awesome. He's hitting 200. He's at the Mendoza line. You know what I mean?
He's like 190 like last week though. He just plays well against the Brewers though.
I get you. I understand, but he even has them. And I know he's young. He still has those woes in the field too. You don't know if it's going into the camera well. Like he's not Tabido. Who's the other guy who played third for us?
Pedro.
Pedro. Yeah. So you don't know if it's going in the camera well like him or he did make a hell of a double play against Milwaukee to end the game. That one that Keller pitched. So I mean, he shows flashes. So let's keep him up here all year next year. Same with all them other young guys. I'm tired of seeing them roll out these old guys and trying to showcase them, and then didn't even trade any of them. So I mean, give the young kids a chance here. That's all I have to say. Now I'm going to tune out.
I have nothing much else either. I have I was looking at their stats. So hitting wise, Reynolds leads in literally every statistic. And then here's what's interesting. This is sad. Pitching stats. Who do you think the leader is? How many with wins?
I was gonna say, Dan, you're not on the notes list.
No, I'm not.
It's somebody probably in the bullpen.
Will Crow, a relief pitcher, leads and wins.
Wow. And how many? What? Five? Yeah. Because I know Keller has. I think Keller's like 4 and something, right? He's got 4 wins, but
that's sad.
Get that banner
set up.
Get the banner ready for next year. Get it ready.
Billy's probably buying his World Series tickets.
No, we're taking the Mitch Keller. Next year, we're taking Mitch Keller, Cy Young, pod bet.
Like, he looks good. And, like, I can't remember who was doing the commentary on the radio.
Neil Walker and Joe
it was Neil Walker. You're right. And he just said that his slider looked even sharper. His cutter looked really good. His two-seam had some movement. So let's just see what he does. I don't know if he had to start after that because they always said he comes out and he'll throw a gem, but then he'll get shelled the next game. So
like home run derby,
We'll see this week. I mean, we can't go off it this week because they play the Mets and the Cardinals. So, I mean as long as Zach Thompson.
We'll go off the whole season. They stink.
Time out.
I'm going to put a referendum, 2 minutes a week. We can roast them when they do something dumb or if they have something interesting happen, but they're just, it's just like the same old song and dance every week. It's like Groundhog Day with this team. They're awful.
Would you say an unassisted triple play is pretty interesting or no?
Oh, that's the most interesting thing in sports.
Okay.
The last comment I have on the Pirates is Zach Thompson should be in a box floating down the river. That's it. That's
that guy stinks.
He stinks out loud. I can't believe that guy still.
I love when I see that guy in the mound because I load up the old FanDuel app and I just throw maybe 3 digits on whoever the Pirates are playing now.
He is so bad. He's
terrible.
Pitcher.
Awesome.
But
that's all I got on the Pirates. Let's move on to the Penguins. I know Dan's not up. Dan's back.
My apologies, boys.
All right. We're moving on to the Penguins anyway. So we have Penguins hockey this month. We're in the month of Penguins hockey. Preseason, I think, late September. But I probably won't watch preseason hockey, honestly. But the big news out of the Penguins is Sullivan signed an extension. Take it away, Dan. I know you want to talk about this.
Yes. So he's got 2 more years left on his current contract. Then they extended him for an additional 3. So he's going to be your head coach for the next 5 years, unless, things turn bad. But as long as you got Sid at the core there, you're always going to be a playoff contender. So I think it would have been stupid to let him walk or, even fire him, even if he has a down year. Some big things, I think that their window's not quite closed because anybody can catch fire. Anybody can put the right pieces together. So I think him at the helm, that really, really helps. I really believe in his system, even if his players might not buy into it all the time. He's a player's coach, and he gets the most out of all, even some mediocre players or some mediocre talent. He puts them in the right positions to win day in and day out. So he's won you 2 Stanley Cups. So I'm happy to see him back. I know a lot of people might give him grief. You hear that a lot in this town with different managers, head coaches. The local media and fans of all the major sports in this town, they give the head coaches a hard time. I don't know if it's because they're trying to hold them to a high standard, because you always want to win. Yeah, you always want to win. But he's back for minimum 5 more years. So unless, like I said, they go into the dump, and it happens all the time. There's a lot of turnover in the NHL with head coaches, but he's a good one to have at the helm.
Yeah, I think we've been lucky with coaches for the most part, other than Johnston. But Bylsma and Sullivan, that's 2 solid pretty much back to back.
Yeah.
So, I don't got anything else on the Penguins, so
Everybody's
Yes.
favorite moment of the week, boys.
we got Idiot of the Week, baby. And I have an absolute chaotic one this week, so I don't know who wants to go first, but I told Andrew the story already. It's absolute chaos.
I'm going to go, but it's not something that we'll have nominated. It's just a blanket statement. Imagine you're sitting at an Eaton Park. It's 3:00 in the afternoon. You're enjoying a nice meal. Bam, a Buick blowing through the wall.
Billy Hillgrove.
Generic idiot of the week, not Billy Hillgrove. Elderly people that think their car's in reverse. They're leaving their 3:00 dinner and they just blow through the wall of a Eaton Park, something like that.
Perkins.
Perkins. Any place that offers the early bird special.
Yeah.
If you're there between the hours of like 3 and 4:30, you're liable to get hit by a Buick while you're sitting in the booth because some old person's going to to be busting through there like the Kool-Aid man.
I know what their game plan is. They want the breakfast
yeah.
and then the salad bar, so that that's at 3:00. They
Yeah.
want the breakfast and the salad bar. So, but they do drive through walls pretty frequently. So
Yeah, it's fairly frequent at this time too. You see it more and more on the news of it happening. I believe it was a couple months ago. Some guy did it on Wendy's out there in Chirenum, or not
Probably a
Chirenum,
Cracker
New Kent.
Barrel.
He went right across the guardrail, right into oncoming traffic coming across the
Oh,
bridge.
Jesus.
First look at Oakmont Bakery. But he was looking
Yeah.
for a nice early
Someone
morning
drove through that
special.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, old people, you need to stop driving through businesses and establishments. I'm just saying that right now. It's more of a PSA and a warning. Stop it.
Are we all in the same boat here? Once you hit let's say 60, you should have to
70.
retake your driver's test. Let's say every 3
Yeah,
years.
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not
Just for
doing
public
that.
safety.
Everyone else does, but I'm not.
Oh,
Jesus.
the elderly are they're a menace on the road.
They are.
They are.
They're
They have to take that plastic rectangle from my cold dead hands. I'm be behind the wheel till the day that I die.
that's a privilege, not a right. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Can't get away with that for too long. Go ahead.
Who's next?
Go ahead, Dan. I don't.
All right, I got one. So I was at work the other day, so I'm sure you guys can already guess who it is. And this person come in. He was previously nominated multiple times. He was multiple winner.
4-time winner.
And wanted to tell me that I was wrong in telling you my story last week, that he wasn't revving his engine. So he got big and bad, started barking at me. I wasn't revving my engine. So I was walking out of the shift leader office, and I turned around, kind of got a little puffed up. I was like, you were revving your engine. I was like, he's like, I didn't even know you were behind me till we hit 2nd Street. I was like, so if you drive like that all the time, you're a jag. So this one, Rio, idiot of the week, trying to bark up the wrong tree because you don't want it, son. I ain't that guy. You want to come at me? We better come correct, because it ain't gonna happen. You ain't gonna appreciate that. So Rio barking up the wrong tree, idiot of the week.
If we need any more juice for Rio being idiot of the week, wow, we are in an Xbox party this week. And Rio, as WPXI labeled him, Mario Leonard, Pitt fan. He's talking. He's like, Pitt has their honorary captain. I don't know who it is. Some guy, Dave Wanstead. For a Pitt fan, he don't even know who Dave Wanstead is.
Dave Wanstead's a local guy.
He's like, is he an old offensive coordinator? He was at a complete loss for its head. No, and then he tried claiming. He's like, oh, well, he coached before I was even born. No, he didn't.
No.
Mario. No.
No,
that's just to add to your idiot of the week. Just
that's
a little
fine.
More juice,
We'll just mash that together. Yeah, that's fine.
And the fact that he was probably the first one to take a defense last night, as you guys probably saw. So
oh yeah.
He took Herbert and who's the other quarterback?
It's all right.
Did he take Kyler? No, he didn't take Murray.
He took 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, he took one later. He's trying to take the ginger strategy, which that really spiced things up. But
yeah. He's already. I'm gonna say Luke's trying to sell me Patty Mahomes already in a package deal. I don't want it.
I'll tell you right now, let him eat him.
Yeah,
he said.
No one.
He said He said you enjoy watching me have 50 points a week with the two of them. I said, well, 25 of them are gonna be on your bench.
Yeah.
You can only play one of them. Burn them.
That's fine with me.
Fine with me.
I have a story to unpack that is absolute chaos. All right, I'm trying to, it's just a Sunday morning. I'm doing my usual thing. I'm at the Giant Eagle, the Dirty Bird. I'm getting my usual groceries. So I'm in the checkout. I'm getting ready to put my groceries on the thing. You get the little divider. There's this kid and a mom in front of me. The kid's probably like 7 or 8. I'm setting the story. So they're getting their items from their bag to the cart. And the kid's being a jag. He's like whipping this like bag around. So out pops a bush's like grilling beans, and it hits the floor, goes everywhere. So at this point, the mother looks over, puts the kid over her knee, and whoops his ass in the Giant Eagle checkout. And that's not where the story ends. That's not where the story ends. So this kid's getting his ass whooped over top of a pile of beans. This guy comes walking in. He pulls out what looks like a handheld motor, and he just rips a big cloud in Giant Eagle. And the workers just go, "You can't do that here, sir." He goes, "Oh, it's all good. It's an e-cigarette." And then he just keeps walking. At this point, the ass whooping's done, by the way. The mother gets up and she just goes, I like to keep it old school. And that's it. I was like, okay. That was just chaos. I walked into a new dimension or something. I just could not fathom what I saw. And I don't even know who to put as the idiot of the week there, if it's the child or the cloud ripper. I don't know. But
it's got to be a cloud ripper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, kids are going to be kids, and that mom, good on that mom. These young punks don't understand it. And you start paintbrushing them, like writing them in front of everybody. Oh, they won't. He won't do that again. I guarantee it. Guarantee you that kid never spins a bag again. That's great. Love it.
It's hilarious. But I have an honorable mention too, which will. Ryan Roberts, you're my honorable mention for Idiot of the Week, buddy. You got on WPXI on television, and you didn't shout out the podcast that you're on.
Wow.
And to boot, he went on there and said it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
Bad look. Bad beat.
That's a bad look. It's a bad look for the pod.
That is.
But we could have had everybody and anybody in the Pittsburgh area listening to us.
Yeah.
Free, easy plug.
Right now. We could be on, the Queen's Jubilee right now. We're not,
Look, the Queen might love Pittsburgh sports, and who's covering it right now? Us.
Yeah.
But that's all I got. We can move on to the random athlete if you guys have them. All right, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
I'll go first. I'll go last.
So I was looking, Pitt, big week this week. I was looking, I had a couple names, and then I was cleaning out my closet yesterday, and I found these gloves. These player-worn gloves, and I remember this story. My man Jabal Sheard, defensive end, Pitt. My old man took me down right by the tunnel. Jabal Sheard, he grabbed my Sharpie I had from FanFest, threw the gloves up. Jabal Sheard, my random Pitt athlete of the week. Great guy.
Good one. All right. Do you want me to go? Or are you
Go ahead.
I could go. I'll go here.
Yeah, go.
So I'm going to piggyback off the Backyard Brawl here. And when I think of Backyard Brawl, I think of 13-9. One of the most iconic Backyard Brawls that ever be played. And when I think of 13-9, I think of one athlete, one person in particular. That's Scott McKillop. Scott McKillop was all over the field that game. I think he had like 12 solo tackles, something like that. Tackles for loss. He embodied the Backyard Brawl. So my random Pittsburgh athlete of the week is Scott McKillop.
Didn't he stop the run to seal the deal too? Right?
Probably.
I think so.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
I might watch it tonight.
Kiski product too.
Yep, local
guy.
Yep.
All right, mine is Andrew might be able to guess this one. So I have a Pirates baseball card. It's my favorite Pirates baseball card. It's not worth anything, but it has a funny quote on it, and the Pirates.
Oh, I know this one.
Who is it, Andrew?
Jack Wilson.
Jack Wilson. I have a Jack Wilson card. He's smiling like a butcher's dog, and the top quote says, "Dip or chew, not in my game." He's just sitting there. So that's my random Pittsburgh athlete.
Oh,
it's a Jack Wilson baseball card, anti-chew.
Sorry, Jack.
All right. Go ahead, Andrew.
All right. I'm going with a former Pirate first baseman. He played a little bit of outfield. If anyone knows the name, his nickname was Big Country. Does anybody recall who that is?
Craig Wilson?
No.
Oh boy.
He's supposed to be the next big thing. Yeah.
Oh, I know. Hang on.
This is gonna bother
Garrett
me.
Ward.
Mm-mm.
I have no idea. I'll be honest.
Big country Brad Eldred.
Yeah, I wasn't
Back
that.
in
It
the
wasn't
day.
coming to me.
Back in
Okay.
the day.
Yep.
He was
Yep.
supposed to be the next big thing, and he stunk for the Pirates. But
Yes.
big country Brad Eldred, random athlete of the week.
All right. So that's all I got. What about you
Yeah.
guys? All right, episode 7, guys. Thanks for listening. We got episode 8 next week. We're going to talk about Pitt versus Tennessee, Penn State versus Ohio, and then Steelers Bengals. So it's going to be chock full of content. So
Keep an eye on the Twitter account before I forget for the punishments for the Fantasy Football League we drafted last night. And also keep an eye. We're going to be doing some sports betting on the Twitter account, tracking our picks, see who is the best one by the end of the year. So keep an eye on all that. Always appreciate the feedback. And we have, always appreciate the likes, subscribes, the listens on every platform. We all really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome all the support we got. So thank you to everybody that listens and pays attention to us because it's pretty sick. Final thoughts, you two?
W's.
No. Yep, it's just the same thing that Mott said. We reiterate it. Appreciate all the support, all the love. I love doing this. You can follow me at Call Couch at twitch.tv. I'll be live. But other than that, no, just having fun. Electric draft last night as well.
Yeah, that was awesome. Go watch that video. The replay's on YouTube. So check that out. All right, episode 7. Thanks for listening, everybody.